which is called as inflammation. So you do something, you take it out, it's a reflex. It's the same principle which happens to the blood also. So there is some artificial things which is happening, there is some disruption, and then we need to work against it. So we call it as an inflammation. And then we need to find out an alternative which is called as a centrifugal pump. Centrifugal force, centrifugal pump, have you heard about it? It's a normal motor pump which you use. So think of L shape. Centrifugal principle is just L shape. Blood comes inside, goes outside. How does it really work? What is an vortex? V-O-R-T-E-X. It is there in your syllabus. Might be it is there in your syllabus. Definitely, I'm damn sure. What is an vortex principle? Centrifugal force. Have you seen a mixie typically? Girls, mixie? Have you ever heard about it? Okay, mixie is working on that vortex principle. So what it does is you put something, the blade rotates, and then if you see typically a transparent jar, it forms as a V-shaped thing. What is it the V-shaped thing indicates? It is the vortex. Have you seen a swirl in the sea? There is a negative force which sucks inside the ships, the Bermuda Triangle and all the things and all. It is a swirl. And then what is a constraint principle? When you give a constraint to that vortex, this V shape shift like this, a triangle. So what happens, the negative force comes at the top and the positive force comes at the bottom. So it is like negative force on the top which sucks the blood from the patient, which pushes off the blood. So L shape. Simple L shape thing. It applies everywhere also. It's the same thing. And then the components, I've spoken about the pump. So why we choose from roller pump to the centrifugal pump? Because there are too much of blood damage, so we need to find an alternative. So we opted for centrifugal pump. And then this is how a typical console looks like. I told about the hardware, right? ECMO is a therapy, the pump is disposable, and the hardware to control it. So we have a rotor over here which controls the flow. We need to give the blood flow. So we have, and then we have an ultrasound flow probe also. That is your department, which you guys come all the time and you come with a screwdriver, you repair it. Because my friend does it all the time. My service friend. Okay, my service colleague. And then the oxygenator. What does a typical oxygenator do? It does the function of lung. What does a lung do? What does a lung do? You can be loud enough. What does a lung do? Oxygenate, right? It's the same thing which is there in the blue box over here. Okay, the lung is, the function of lung is done by this. It takes out the carbon dioxide, gives up the oxygen, and along with that, it keeps the temperature warm. Because when the temperature comes down, what happens? You feel cold, you feel the chillness. Just imagine the patient is lying down with an artificial circulation for 10 days, 20 days. What happens to the blood temperature? Because it has been, exposed to AC. It is there in the ICU. The chillness will keep the patient and the heart function reduced. So we need to keep the patient warm enough. So that's why we require a heater unit. So that is also there incorporated with this. And how does an oxygenator work? Just imagine this is the deoxygenated blood coming inside, getting oxygenated, and then goes outside. Okay? And then we have this schematic diagrams also. Now what are the monitoring devices? What do we require? So you have a patient, you have an indication, you have a contraindication, and you have an ECMO system hardware, and then you have this monitoring devices. What can be monitored? ACTs, I think that will be more much of detail. Okay, you check all the parameters of the patient, that's it. And then the pictures of it. Management, you check all the machines, how it works, whether it works or not, how it is in the good patent condition or it giving any trouble to the patient and to the hospital. And complications, anything may happen to the patient. Anything can go wrong with the patient, anything can go wrong with the disposable you use, anything can go wrong with the hardware, the malfunction. And then what does an ECMO really do? ECMO works as a bridge. If you think about any surgery, if you think about anything, something like transplantation or something like that, so ECMO works as a bridge, keeping the patient alive till you get an organ system or an organ. Okay? And utilization, I don't want to get into it. This is the second generation one. You can see the first generation, which is small enough and all the things enough. The second generation is having multiple applications and multiple advancements also. And thank you so much. Hope I didn't make you all sleep, right? Thank you so much, guys.
I now invite Mr. P.S. Jagannathan on stage to give us more information.
Show my presentation, and I would like to thank my colleagues because they are very generous. They don't want me to take my topics. They have covered all my topics. I have not seen their slides before. If I could have seen the presentation before, I could have changed my presentation slides. Okay, anyway, the topic given to me is newer techniques in ventilation. So Mr. Loknath has covered what is meant by ventilation, what is respiration. In simple term, the technology improves right from the plug cord to automatic pilot in aviation. The ventilator technology also develops the same way. The next one. Okay. So what is ventilation? Mr. Gokul also covered and Mr. Loknath also covered my topic almost. But I will say in different way. A transport of air in and out of alveoli in simple manner. So how the gas moves in to the alveolar and to the blood barrier, and from the blood barrier to alveolar, and how we are inhale and exhale. The inhalation is the process of you are sucking in the gas inside your lung, okay? Then it goes to the alveolar, and from alveolar to blood, how the gas is moving. So there are different processes involved in that: convection, diffusion, circulation, and cellular respiration. Okay, this process involved to move the gas from alveolar to blood and blood to alveolar. So convection is nothing but mass movement of gas, how the gas is moving from one place to another place. Diffusion is the process, the movement of air or liquid, how it is moving from one place to another place. So the gas liquid will move from high concentration to low concentration always. So when you are sucking the atmospheric air into your lung, the oxygen content will be more in alveolar than the blood barrier. Okay, the oxygen content in blood barrier will be very low. So the oxygen will move from alveolar to blood. And in blood, the CO2 content will be more than the alveolar. So naturally the CO2 will go from blood barrier to alveolar. So that's why we are inhaling oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide. So this is picture shows the first generation of ventilators. So these ventilators are still available in UK. I have seen in UK, not in hospital, in museum. Okay. So this first generation ventilator, we will call it as a negative pressure ventilators. How it works exactly? Sorry. Which one is? We will call it as an iron lung chamber. Okay. the whole body will be inside the iron lung chamber and only the head will be outside. They will create negative pressure, and the negative pressure is created inside the chamber. Thereby, the rib cage is pulled outward and the gas will move into the lungs. And exhalation happens passively. Okay, this is the way they have been ventilating the patient in 1800s. This ventilators will occupy almost half of this room, and it produces a lot of noise. It is made up of a lot of vacuum tubes. I don't know how many of you seen the vacuum tubes. Have you seen the vacuum tubes? Okay. Vacuum tubes will occupy larger space. It radiates a lot of heat. The efficiency is very slow compared to the transistors or integrated circuits. Okay. So these ventilators will occupy more space and the efficiency is very less, and it radiates a lot of heat also. And they don't know how much pressure has to be created inside the chamber, because if you create more negative pressure, it will pull the rib cages very fast, and then that will break the rib cages. Thereby they are losing all the patients. So they don't know how much pressure has to be created for a particular patient. So because of that, they lost a lot of patients. Then slowly the electronic improvisation happens, and then slowly they invented transistors, they invented integrated circuit, microprocessors or microcomputers. Then slowly the technology improvement takes place. So now we are in 4th generation ventilators. So it will not occupy much space in the intensive care unit or any ICU. The efficiency is 100% superior than the 1st generation ventilation, what we have been using. And there are a lot of new techniques we have included in this, including the non-invasive ventilation with leak compensation and lung recruitment technologies, different advanced modes of ventilation which reduces ventilator-induced lung injury, which Mr. Loknath already discussed. Okay, so this is about microcomputer ventilators. Nowadays we are using the microcomputers. So what is ventilator? How it functions? A ventilator is a machine that generates the pressure necessary to cause a flow of gas that increases the volume of the lung. Mr. Loknath has shown the balloon, okay, as a lung. Take it as an example, a balloon as a example of lung, okay. So if you take a balloon, what you are doing, you are giving a pressure, okay, you are applying a pressure. When you apply the pressure, the flow of gas will be there, and that flow of gas will increase the volume inside the lungs. So the same principle, the ventilator also works. So to more clinical side, how it is functions. So we will insert, there are 2 ways that you can ventilate a patient. One is non-invasive ventilation. That means you don't have to introduce any tube invasively. Okay? With the mask, you can ventilate the patient. That is one way. The second method is you have to put endotracheal tube either by oral or nasal, and it directly reaches to the lungs. That way you can ventilate invasive ventilation. There are 2 methods of ventilating a patient. So how the gas is moving inside, it is depends on, you take this as a lung and this circle as a lung, and this is airway from your trachea to up to this bronchial levels. Okay? So when the gas has to move, it has to come across the, overcome the resistance. Okay? And then it has to fill the lungs. So how much the lung will expand, that is nothing but compliance. How the gas is passing from this end to this end, and then it is reaching to the lung, that is nothing but resistance. So when you want to know about how the machine is ventilating a patient, you need to know what is meant by resistance and what is meant by compliance. Resistance is nothing but pressure by flow, and compliance is nothing but volume divided by resistance. Volume divided by pressure. So this is how the ventilator works. So now I am showing this simple block diagram of ventilator. How exactly the ventilator will look like and what all the components will be there inside the machine. I am just showing only the block diagram, not all the components of the equipment. So we are giving pressure as a source, okay? Either or most of the hospitals will have the central source, air and oxygen, or some hospitals will have only the oxygen source, they will not be having air. So why both air and oxygen? So the machine can work if you give simple oxygen also. With the oxygen pressure also it will work. But why we need to connect both air and oxygen is, if you are connecting only oxygen, it is pure oxygen. It is not possible to reduce the percentage of oxygen. Suppose in case if the patient doesn't require 100% oxygen, it is not possible to reduce it. So that is the reason we are connecting both air and oxygen, a combination. If you connect both air and oxygen, it is possible to keep whatever the percentage the patient is required. Okay. So whatever the pressures that we are getting in the central source, it will be the high pressures. It is not possible to deliver the same pressure to the patient lung. Then the patient lung will burst. Okay. So we need to reduce these pressures. That's why we have pneumatic block inside the ventilator. These pneumatic blocks will have several pressure reduction valves inside the machine. So we keep on reducing the pressure step by step, and then we will be storing in tank or reservoir. We will call it as a reservoir. Then we have a control unit. Whatever the input that you want to give, you can feed the input. The control unit will take the input, and then whatever the output it has to produce, it will produce. Okay. So it will control all the components of the equipments. It will act as a motherboard in your computer. Okay, now you have given certain inputs. Okay, I want to deliver certain amount of volume, pressure and flow. Okay, so the machine will accept that, and then it will give the instruction to the pneumatic block. So the pneumatic block also will release whatever the volume or pressure or flow you want to deliver. Then we